Let's read this from verse 1. After this, Jesus traveled around Galilee. He wanted to stay out of Judea, where the Jewish leaders were plotting his death. But soon it was time for the Jewish festival of shelters. And Jesus and Jesus' brothers said to him, "Leave here and go to Judea, where your followers can see your miracles. You can't become famous if you hide like this. If you can do such a wonderful things, show yourself to the world." For even his brothers didn't believe in him. Here's the main verse, verse 6. Jesus replied, "Now is not the right time for me to go, but you can go anytime. The world can hate you because it does hate me, because I accuse it of doing evil. You go on. I'm not going to this festival because my time has not yet come." So, timing of the Lord. First thing I want you, and I've touched a little bit on that, on the message that I talked about being in sync with God. Those of you that haven't listened to that message, you can go back on my channel and listen to it. Being in God's timing, being in sync with God. Just because everyone is doing it, that doesn't mean that it is your time to do it. Are you with me? We see in this thing, Bible says everybody is going to the festival. Everybody is going to do the right thing. Essentially, everybody is going to celebrate the festival which they were mandated by God himself to do. And they're telling Jesus, "Hey, you go with us. You go somewhere, show your miracles. While you're here," they're actually encouraging him to do good thing. They're telling him, "Hey, go to this place and that place. Go to where your followers is. Do your miracles and you will become famous." They're giving him a good advice. They're giving Jesus, pretty much they're helping or suggesting Jesus to do what he came here to do, is to gain followers, to preach the gospel, to show the miracles, and eventually to die. Write this down. The right thing in the wrong time is the wrong thing. The right thing in the wrong time is the wrong thing. Just because everybody is doing it, that doesn't mean, and I'm right now, please understand me, I am not talking about bad things. I'm not saying like, well, everybody is doing drugs, so you don't do it. Obviously, I mean, we're spiritual people here, so I'm not even talking about these childish things. I'm not giving you milk right now. I'm throwing you down some steak, okay? So just chew on that a little bit. I'm not talking about that doing what the world is doing. I'm talking even about things that are being done in the church, things that are being even done by good people, Christian people. That just because everybody is doing it, that doesn't mean it is your time to do it. We have to understand the timing of God. We have to be in sync with God so that we fulfill all the things that God has in store for us. Don't always do what everybody is doing, because it's allowed for them to do, it doesn't mean that it's allowed for you to do. Just because it's time for them to go, it doesn't mean it's time for you to go. We see in this story, Jesus eventually went to Jerusalem, but at that moment, it wasn't his time, because it wasn't part of his purpose. Okay? So, when it comes to visions and dreams, when it comes to prophetic words, let me touch on this one. I touch on more on that in the School of Prophets, which is coming up here in a month. Those of you that haven't signed up to School of Prophets, don't miss out your chance. Go sign up. Go to my website, pastorilya.com. It's free of charge. And I touch a little bit more on this one, but I feel like I need to bring that up today. In the School of Prophets, I take a whole lesson talking about why prophecies don't come to pass, and we examine various intricate details through the scripture why prophecies do not come to pass. But one thing that I want to bring up and share with you today that has to do with timing. One of the reasons why we feel like prophecies failed is not that they failed, it's that we got the timing wrong, or the prophet got the timing wrong. Okay? Are you with me? If you're with me, drop one in the chat. For example, and I had those. A prophet came to me and said, this time, in 3 months, this and this and this is going to happen. And that's something that the Lord's already been talking to me in this particular area. And he came and he confirmed everything. And at the end of the prophecy, he said, he said by the May of this year. But it was about 3 months. By the May of this year. So it wasn't about 3 months. So I was like excited. First of all, that's something that the Lord was already speaking to me. But the fact that it was going to be like this May, this coming up May, well, it was not this May. That was like 3 or 4 years ago. I got excited about it. And then May came around. And then June and July and August. And I was like, what happened to the prophetic word? What happened to the whole thing of May? Or he must be a false prophet. And so eventually the thing that he prophesied, it came to pass, but not in May. So what's the issue? The issue was that the prophet got 99% of the prophecy right, but misinterpreted the timing, or maybe he did not have the timing. And sometimes prophets have this tendency, just because in a previous prophecy the Lord has given you a timing, and we feel like, oh, in this prophecy God is going to give me the timing of this prophecy too. But God does not give you the timing, and so you add your own timing in your flesh. And so 99% of the prophecy, prophet prophesies from the Spirit of God, accurate, and then that 1%, he says, is going to happen by May. Because he prophesied a previous prophecy, and he said the timing, and timing was correct. And this one, 99% of the prophecy was in the Spirit, but 1% was in flesh, and he missed it. So what I come to find out is that the prophecy did come to pass, but the timing was off. I remember another prophet in South Africa came to me. We were sitting actually at the airport. We just started talking. I came to know him. He's a man of God. He began to prophesy a lot of many things into my life. In one particular thing that he prophesied was about the youth and the youth movement that's going to sprout, it's going to start from our church, from our ministry. And how it's going to... And our youth ministry at that point was going through a transition, and it was reduced down to just a dozen people. So it was struggling big time. So I was excited about it, and he put a timestamp on it, and that year came about, and I was like, well, I mean, things are starting to kind of change in the youth group, in the youth of the church, but it's not to what he prophesied about. And I felt that prophecy was from the Spirit of God. Spirit of God was speaking. 2 years later, everything he prophesied about the youth in our church has come to pass. New youth leaders rise up, momentum, revival, everything. And I knew it was from the Spirit of God, but that prophet, he just missed the timing. So timing, hearing God, and knowing the timing and discerning the times is essential. So coming back to visions, dreams, and the things that God speaks to us. We must discern the time. We must also be careful the timestamps we put on it. Now, I'm not saying that God doesn't speak about time. For example, it was few years back, me and my wife, we were praying that my wife would be able to quit her job. She had a very good job, very lucrative job, was making a lot of money. She had a very lucrative position in the company. They were offering her promotion and wanted her to go for more education and go up higher. She was in demand at her work, but we were praying, and she felt, and I felt same thing in my heart, that our kids need her at home, and she wants to be at home to raise the kids, and be stay-at-home mom for a season. But her income was substantial amount of our total income, and we didn't see how that could be possible. And God put on my wife's heart and spoke to her, said, but that by December of that year, that she would be stay-at-home mom. And same thing, I felt a confirmation. And there was some possibilities that it would happen, but not high. But we just trusted the Lord that God will help my wife to become a stay-home mom by December of that year. And that was like early in the year, maybe April, May, around this time. And things were going, but not in a good direction. By September of that year, I lost the business that I had. And we actually got into some debt because of that. Actually, quite a bit of debt. So by September, October, end of September, October, it really did not look like she's going to quit. And maybe perhaps it wasn't God who spoke to us. It was just our desire for her not to work and to be stay-home mom and raise kids. It wasn't going to happen. I mean, it really didn't look like happening, because now I don't have a business. That was my side of income. And now if she quits her job, we will have no income at all. We won't be able to take care of families. We won't be able to pay for our mortgage and all that stuff. So it didn't look like it was actually God who spoke to us. By mid-November, I got offered a partnership in another business. I joined that business. The business began to grow rapidly. And by the end of December, we made a decision that we have stable enough income that she can quit the job. And we saw God's promise fulfilled and His timing be fulfilled. But now imagine if my wife, she would have quit the job in September, because the Lord told us that she would be a stay-home mom and she will raise kids until they come into adulthood or into late teens, and then she will continue on with either ministry or career or whatever else God has for her. That would have been a disaster. We would maybe even lose our home. We would not be able to pay the bills. And so while the vision, it was from God, while the word, it was from God, but we had to wait for proper timing for the word to be fulfilled. So timing is essential, and discerning the timing is essential when we hear from God.